الله على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أدعوك كما أمرت فاستجب لي كما وعدت إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. اللهم إني أسألك برحمتك التي وسعت كل شيء وبقوتك التي قهرت بها كل شيء وخضع لها كل شيء وذل لها كل شيء وبجبروتك التي غلبت بها كل شيء وبعزتك التي لا يقوم لها شيء وبعظمتك التي ملأت كل شيء وبسلطانك الذي على كل شيء وبوجهك الباقي بعد فناء كل شيء وبأسمائك التي ملأت أركان كل شيء وبعلمك الذي أحاط بكل شيء وبنور وجهك الذي أضاء له كل شيء. يا نور يا قدوس يا نور يا قدوس يا أول الأولين ويا آخر الآخرين. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تهتك العصام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعم. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبت وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوب غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عمل القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي، كم من قبيح سترته، وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلته، وكم من عثار وقيته، وكم من مكروه دفعته، وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم عظم بلائي، وأفرط بي سوء حالي، وقصرت بي أعمالي، وقعدت بي أغلالي، وحبسني عن نفعي بعد آمالي، وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها، ونفسي بخيانتها، ومطالي يا سيدي. فأسألك بعزتك أن لا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي، ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري، ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي، ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي، وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في الأحوال كلها رؤوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي، من لي غيرك؟ أسأل كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي، أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك، وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني، ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري، غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري، وارحم شدة ضري، وفكني من شدي وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني، ورقة جلدي، ودقة عظمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي. يا إلهي وسيدي وربي، أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك، وبعد من طوى علي قلبي من معرفتك، ولهج به لساني من ذكرك، واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك. هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته، أو تبعد من أدنيت، أو تشرد من آويت، أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمت. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي، أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا، وبشكرك مادحا، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققا، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت إلى الأوطان تعبدك طائعة، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا. ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم. يا ربي وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها، وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه، قليل مكثو، يسير بقاء، قصير مدة. فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل الوقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدوم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض. يا سيدي فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أضج وأبكي، لأليم العذاب وشدتي أم لطول البلاء ومدتي؟ فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك، وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك، وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي. صبرت على عذابك، فكيف أصبر على فراقك؟ وهبني صبرت على حر نارك، فكيف أصبر عن النظر إلى كرامتك؟ أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك؟ فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا، لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآملين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين، ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفتك، وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته، وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك، ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك، ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي، فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفا؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقا؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربا؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك، ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك، وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك، لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كانت لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك، أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين. وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا، وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما: أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي، فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها، وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها، وغلبت من عليه أجريتها، أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمت، وكل ذنب أذنبت، وكل قبيح أسررت، وكل جهل عملت، كتمته أو أعلنت، أخفيته أو أظهرت، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم. وبرحمتك أخفيت، وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير أنزلت، أو بر نشرت، أو إحسان فضلت، أو بر نشرت، أو رزق بسطت، أو بر نشرت، أو رزق تبسط، أو ذنب تغفر، أو خطأ تستر. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب، يا ربي يا ربي، يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي يا ربي، أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي في الليل والنهار بذكرك معمورا، وبخدمتك موصولا، وأعمالي عندك مقبولا، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا ربي يا ربي، قو على خدمتك جوارحي، واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين، وأسرع إليك في المبادرين، وأشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، وأجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد، ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك، واعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأقلني عثرتي، واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة. فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي. يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء. يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء وسلاحه البكاء. يا سابغ النعم يا دافع النقام، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام، يا عالما لا يعلم، صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت. وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا. For the arwah of all the mu'mineen and the mu'mineen of all those who are present here today, please recite Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it, the loudest of your salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good to see everyone this evening. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday night. Inshallah, I look forward to seeing some of you all that are joining us for the Karama Community Camp tomorrow. Inshallah, have a safe drive out to Ukaipa. Allow your, don't forget about, of course, we don't have to remind people about LA traffic. I hear everybody knows you gotta take that into account when you plan your drive out. I guess another quick announcement, I guess I'll share, we're looking forward, inshallah, this Muharram is going to be, first Muharram will be at like the end of July this year. And, with people traveling again, inshallah, we're looking forward to inviting Sayyid Asad Jafri, who will be visiting Yasin for the first time this upcoming in August, inshallah. So we'll get the flyer and announcement out for that soon. But I guess that's one small announcement. But without further ado, let us please welcome Sayyid Tayyab Mousawi with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يوصينا معه العادون ولا يودي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بهد الهمم ولا يناله غوث الفتن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت محدود ولا أجل ممدود فترى الخلائق بقدرته ونشر الرياح برحمته ووتد بالسخر ميدان عرض ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيبنا وحبيب رب العالمين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين أما بعد فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المبين وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يؤتي الحكمة من يشاء ومن يؤت الحكمة فقد أوتي خيرا كثيرا صدق الله العلي العظيم. As I'm sure, brothers and sisters, most of you know, the 11th of this month is the wiladat of Imam Riza alayhi salam. And the 11th will fall on, inshallah, I believe it will fall on Saturday. And I don't know if there's going to be a lecture here for Saturday. I don't know what's going on. But because with me, wherever I go, if it's the wiladat of one of these holy personalities, I focus my lecture on that personality. If it's the shahadat of one of these personalities, I focus my lecture on that personality. Why? Because living in the West, we read autobiographies of all of these other people that we know. I'm sure you've read biography of, for example, Elon Musk. You've read biographies of all of these other, you've read biographies of Abraham Lincoln, you read all these biographies. But when it comes to the biographies of our imams, when it comes to the biographies of these holy personalities, many of us will read them. If we do, we'll read them, but we won't apply what we learned. Each and every single one of these holy personalities, if you look at them and you read their biography, there's at least one thing everyone can learn from each and every single one of these personalities. And that's what all of our job should be, to learn one thing. If not once a month, once a year, learn one thing. For example, Imam Riza alayhi salam, of all of the Masumin, he is the only Imam who's been given the title of Alim ala Muhammad, the scholar of Ala Muhammad. Why is it that only and only this Imam has been given that title? You look at Amir, the Holy Prophet, he himself, he said what? Ana Madinatul Ilm. I am the city of knowledge. Yet, he's not referred to as Alim ala Muhammad. And then he goes on to say, wa Aliun Babaha. And Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, he is that gate, he is the gate to that city of knowledge. Yet Amir al-Mu'minin is not known as Alim ala Muhammad. You have the Nahj Balagha, all of the sermons of Nahj Balagha, and then not just the sermons, the letters that are at the end of Nahj Balagha, you have all of those. But Amir al-Mu'minin is not known as Alim ala Muhammad. Then you come to Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, from whom we did the lecture on Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam about 2 weeks ago. This fiqh is known as Fiqh Jafri, it's named after Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam. Yet he is still not known as Alim ala Muhammad. Why is it that Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam himself, he himself gave this laqab to Imam Riza alayhi salam? What reason? Are they not all Alim ala Muhammad? Or no, is it just Imam Riza? If it's just Imam Riza, why is it Imam Riza? If it's all of them, then why don't we consider all of them, or why don't we use this name that Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam is given to Imam Riza to all the other Imams? That's something for everyone to think about. Alim ala Muhammad. Who gave this name? Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam gave this name. When? Before Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, he left this world. 15 days before he left this world, or 15 days after Imam left this world, Imam Riza alayhi salam came to this world. And right before he left, he told his son Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam what? He said, O Musa, to you a son will be born. He will be known as Alim ala Muhammad. And Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, what does he say? He says, I wish I would be alive to see his time. I wish I was alive to see his time. May my parents be sacrificed for him. For the Imam to use these words for someone else, you have to think how great this personality would be. So, the 15th, inshallah, it's coming. And because of that, the 30 minutes, the 35 minutes, 40 minutes maximum, inshallah, everything will be done by 10 o'clock, so do not worry. I know tomorrow is Friday, so do not worry. Everything, by then, it will be done. But Imam Riza alayhi salam, there's some things I want to get across with Imam Riza alayhi salam. The reason that Imam Riza alayhi salam, first and foremost, to get everything out of the way, the reason that Imam Riza alayhi salam is known as Alim ala Muhammad is why? Is because if you look at his history, you see that of all the Imams, he has the most debates. Of all of the Imams, he has the most debates in his lifetime. Why was that? It was because Mamun, he invited, not just invited the Imam, but Mamun Rashid, what did he do? He made Imam Riza alayhi salam to be his Wali al-Amr. He made Imam Riza to be his successor after him. But that's what he proclaimed to the people. But The Imam himself, he says, no, he doesn't want me to be the successor after him. There's a reason he did this. It's just so he could keep an eye on me. Imam was where? In Medina. Mamun was where? Khurasan. He did this just so he can keep an eye on me. So the Imam, when he came to Khurasan, when he was brought to Khurasan, Mamun Rashid, he would do everything in his power. If he had known that some debater had come to Khurasan, he would call the debater into the courthouse and he would tell him what? My cousin Ali is here from Medina. I want you to debate with him. And not just a one-on-one debate. What would Mamun do? He would call everyone that he could to come in to the palace so they could listen to this debate. And what was his intention? His intention was to make sure or try and make sure that Imam Riza alayhi salam could not answer any of the questions that the debater was asking him. That was his only intention. His intention was to make the status or have the status of the Imam lower in the eyes of all the people that were there. That was it. That was his intention. But if you read these debates, the debates that Imam Riza alayhi salam had, for example, on Tawheed, the debates that Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam had on Tawheed, a lot of people, they read the debates and then they say, hey, you know what? These points, they're 1,200 years old, they're 1,300 years old, they do not apply anymore. No, that's not true. If you concentrate and you think about the point that the Imam is making, you'll realize that that point still exists today. You just have to know where to apply it. For example, Imam Riza alayhi salam, Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, both of these Imams, when they would debate with the atheists would say what? That we don't believe that there's a being that's everywhere but we can't see him. We don't believe that. If we can't see him, then we can't believe. Today, the atheists, they still have these same points. What? The senses. All we have is our senses. But our Shia brothers, forget the Muslims, the Shia brothers, when they read these debates, they say, no, that's 1,200 years old, that's 800 years old. They don't apply now. Look at what the Imam is saying. Just because you can't see it does not mean that it doesn't exist. Today, in this age of science, scientists themselves, they have not seen, for example, electrons. Yet everyone believes that they exist. They haven't seen it. So what is the Imam saying? What the Imam says or the debate, the point he puts out, you have to figure out yourself where to apply it in this age that you live in. It's our job to apply it. It's our job to figure out where does this apply. You don't just stick to what the Imam said 800 years ago and then try to apply that whole debate into this era. No. You look at the points that the Imam is bringing out. That's, for example, on Tawheed. That was one of the points. The Imam, when he was debating with the atheists, they said, we can't believe. So Imam Jafar Sadiq alayhi salam, Imam Riza alayhi salam, they themselves, they said what? At that time, Imam Jafar Sadiq, do you see inside your own body? At that time. And the man said, no, what does my body have, what does me being able to see inside my body have to do with God? And the Imam says, if you were able to see inside your body, you would not be an atheist. Correct? Today, they're able to see inside your body. We've seen inside our body. We know what exists within our body. So can we use that same argument today in that same context, in that same sense? No. Why? Because we can see inside our body now. But even though we can see inside our body, does that mean that that whole point is completely useless nowadays? No. Because like I said, even today, what's happened? When you go to the subatomic level, they still have not seen those subatomic particles. Electrons, they have not seen them. But everyone believes that they exist. So what does this tell you? Scientists themselves, they say, scientists themselves, they believe that you don't have to see something to believe that exists. You don't have to see it. Yet, the atheists, what do they say? No, you have to be able to see it. That's what science does not say that. 1, 2, science only deals with what? The physical aspect of this world. Science does not deal with the supernatural. Science does not deal with what's beyond this physical world. It doesn't deal with it. Everything that exists is within this physical realm. That's it. Science has no say over in terms of afterlife. It can't. It doesn't have the tools. Salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. But with Imam Riza alayhi salam, one of his most famous debates that he had was Mamun. He had invited not just Christians, not just Jews, not just Hindus, but he had invited atheists, he had invited agnostics, he had invited philosophers that didn't really care too much for religion. And this is the most famous debate of Imam Riza alayhi salam. And I don't have time to go over every single aspect of this debate or every detail of this debate, but the Imam, when Mamun Rashid, he gathered all these people, he sent his servant to go call the Imam and let the Imam know that all these people have gathered and they want to talk to you about religious matters. So what does Mamun do? When he sends the servant goes, he tells Imam Riza alayhi salam, and Imam Riza, he says, okay, go back, I'll come. When Mamun's servant goes, Imam looks at his servants, Imam looks at his companions, and he asks him, do you know why he's doing this? Do you know why he's doing this? And they go, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, we don't know. We don't know why he's doing this. Because if you look at some of the books that we have, one of the things that some of these books they say is that Mamun Rashid, he was Shia. Mamun Rashid, they say that he was Shia. When you look at the history of Mamun Rashid, no, he was Hashimi, yes. Banu Abbas are all Hashimi. But that doesn't mean that they were Shia. Will a Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen murder Amir al-Mu'mineen's grandson? No. What does Shia mean? Shia literally means to put your step where the person you follow puts their step. If we call ourselves the Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen, it means what? Our duty is to put our step where Amir al-Mu'mineen put his step. That's what Shia literally means. If we're not doing that, then it's hard for us to call ourselves a Shia of Amir al-Mu'mineen. We can call ourselves the lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and that's exactly what Amir al-Mu'mineen said. There was a group of youngsters, it's the middle of the night. Amir al-Mu'mineen is walking home. These youngsters, they meet Amir al-Mu'mineen and they say, Assalamu alaikum, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he looks at them and he goes, Wa alaikum salam, who are you? And these youngsters, they say, Ya Ali, we're your Shia. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he looks at them and he says, you're my Shia? How come I don't see the signs of you being my Shia? Why don't I see the signs of a Shia on you? And they go, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, what do you mean? Amir al-Mu'mineen, he names the signs of a Shia. And then later, he goes on to say, look, do not call yourself a Shia. Why? Because in the Quran, Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam is known as Shia. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam is known as a Shia. Do not call yourself a Shia. But what you can say is that you are someone who has love for me. That's it. Calling yourself Shia, you have to be at a certain level to call yourself a Shia. There were very few people in that time period of Amir al-Mu'mineen. The books, they say about 10. You could count the number of people that were truly Shia. The way that you and I are Shia. In the sense that La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah Aliyun Waliullah. All the way to Wa Khalifatu Bila Fasl. There were very few people that believed Wa Khalifatu Bila Fasl. Today you have what? 200 million people that say this kalima. But in the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen, the scholars, they say, no, those types of people, you could count them on your fingers. Where have the Shia come from 10, 12, 15 to 200 million now? Allahumma salli ala. But Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he says this, they leave. This is what it means to be a Shia. Just because we have love for Amir al-Mu'mineen, that doesn't mean we're Shia brothers and sisters. No, we're the lovers of the Ahlul Bayt. That's absolutely true. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? La asalukum alayhi ajran illal mawadda fil qurba. I don't ask of you anything except for love of my nearest of kin, the nearest of relatives. Mawadda. And this mawadda If you look at what the ulama say, what the word mawadda actually means, do you all know? Mawadda isn't just love. Mawadda isn't just love. Mawadda has a deeper meaning. And what's that deeper meaning? That deeper meaning means that you're not able to live without them. Meaning what? Meaning the way that a fish cannot live without water. Meaning the way this human being cannot live without oxygen. That's what mawaddat means. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you love them in that sense, not this superficial love. No, love them in the sense that you cannot live without them. When you're separated from them, you start crying. When you're separated from them, you start wishing that they were here. And if you look at what the Shias do today, they've been separated from the Imam of their time for how long? 1,000 years? 900 years? 1,100 years? At least once a week, if not every day, they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what? To send the last Imam. That's mawadda. And you have to ask yourself, this verse of the Quran doesn't only apply to Shias, it applies to anyone that considers themselves a Muslim. So of all the Muslims, have they acted upon this verse? Did Mamun Rashid, when he poisoned Imam Riza alayhi salam, was he acting on this verse? Look at the history of Mamun Rashid. He's the son of whom? Harun Rashid. Before Harun Rashid passed away, Harun Rashid, he had two sons. One was Amin and the other one was Mamun. Amin, he was pure Arab, meaning his father was Arab, his mother was Arab. Mamun, he was half Arab. His father was Arab, but his mother was Iranian. His mother was Persian. And because his mother was Persian, what happened? The Banu Abbas at that time, I'm sure everyone's aware, at that time tribalism still had precedence. So at that time, the Arabs, they did not consider Mamun to be Arab. They did not want a non-Arab to rule over them. They thought him to be a non-Arab. So they told this to Harun, the father. So what does Harun Rashid do? Harun Rashid, he ends up splitting his empire in two. The Arab portion, he gives it in the hands of Amin. And the non-Arab portion, he gives it in the hands of Mamun. Right after Harun Rashid passed away, what happened? Both of these brothers, they fought each other, and Mamun, he killed Amin. Mamun, he killed Amin. Look at the way the world is. Look at the system that the world has, and look at the system that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. Here, in this worldly system, you have two brothers who could not even cooperate amongst themselves to rule over some land. Yet in the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have two brothers that are known as what? The chiefs of paradise. Yet you don't have any conflict within them. If you say, well, Sayyid, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, they're full brothers. Mamun and Amin, they're half brothers. Okay, no problem. No problem. Do you not have half brothers in Amir al-Mu'mineen's lineage? Look at Abu al-Fazl Abbas alayhi salam and look at Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. Was there any conflict between them? No. Abu al-Fazl Abbas alayhi salam, the way he was raised was his mother told him, you're not like them. You consider yourself to be their servant. Never consider yourself to be their equal. Why? Because they're the offspring of Fatima. Allahumma salli. Look at the two systems you have. It was when Mamun, he called Imam Riza alayhi salam to Khurasan. It was on this journey, Imam alayhi salam, he received one of the most well-known titles that he has. In the Persian community, in the Pakistani community, he is known as what? Zamina Ahu. In the Arab community, Imam al-Zamin. This Zamina Ahu, what does this mean? In Persian, Ahu is deer. It's a deer. What's the story behind this? Imam, when he was going on this journey, he came across a jungle. The caravan, it came across a jungle. When it came to that jungle, there was a hunter, and he was about to hunt down a deer. When this deer saw the Imam, she ran to the Imam, and she whispers into the Imam's ear. And the Imam, he tells this hunter, let her go. Let this deer go. All she wants to do is she wants to feed her younglings, and then she'll come back. She has 2 offspring, she wants to feed them, and then she'll come back. The hunter, he doesn't know who this man is. All he hears is this man, he puts his ear to this deer, and then he's talking to him, telling him to let this deer go. So the man asks him, who's going to guarantee that this deer will come back? Zamin means what? Someone who guarantees, the guarantor. That's what Zamin means. So this man, he asks, are you going to guarantee? Imam says, I'll guarantee that this deer comes back. I'll guarantee that this deer comes back. And he tells him that this deer, it has 2 offspring, it just wants to give him milk and it'll come back. So what happens? The deer, it goes. When it comes back, not only does it come back, but to prove that this man was telling the truth, it comes back with the 2 offsprings that it had. When this man, he saw this, he becomes surprised. He asks him who you are, and he says, I'm Riza. And he says, for your sake, I let this deer go. Think about it, brothers and sisters. This same type of incident happened with Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. What does it tell you when animals, they recognize the Imam, yet human beings are not able to recognize their Imam? This human being that has intellect, this human being that prides itself over every other animal, it's not able to recognize the Imam of his time or her time, yet all of these animals, they can. What does it tell you about those people that were in Karbala, that were fighting against Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Very difficult to call them human beings. Why? Even animals, very difficult to call them animals. Why? Because the narrations state what? That the body of a masoom, a prophet, or the offspring of a prophet is haram for these types of animals. If you look at the tafsir of Surah Al-Yusuf, when the brothers, they came back to Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam and they told them that coyotes, they ate their brother, what does Hazrat Yaqub do? He goes out and he calls out. He calls out, all that later, okay? He calls out. And he says to them, did you eat my son? And it was the coyotes who spoke up and they said, Ya Rasulullah, it's haram for us to eat. It's haram for us to attack a prophet of God and the offspring of a prophet of God. This is animals. These are wolves. These are coyotes. So what does it tell you about those people in Karbala that attacked not only Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, but they attacked that 6-month-old infant of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam? What does it tell you about them? You come from Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you come to Imam Riza alayhi salam. Imam Zain al-Abidin, he had that same story of the deer. Imam Riza alayhi salam, it was on this journey that Imam Riza alayhi salam, he had his most famous narration that was written down. According to some historians, 30,000 people. According to other historians, at least 10,000 people. At least 10,000 people. They wrote this narration of Imam Riza alayhi salam. It's known as what? Silsilatul Zahab. The chain of narration of gold. This is what this narration is known as. And what is that narration? Imam Riza alayhi salam, when he was going, he says what? La ilaha illallah. The narration, he says that I heard this hadith from my father, who heard from his 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 father, who heard from the Holy Prophet, who heard from Jibreel, who heard from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This chain of narration known as the chain of gold, the golden chain. But what was this narration? Imam Riza alayhi salam, he says this narration, La ilaha illallah hasni. The kalima of La ilaha illallah is my fortress. This kalima of La ilaha illallah is my fortress. فَمَنْ دَخَلَ حَسْنِي أَمَنَ مِنْ أَذَابِي. Whoever enters this fortress, they've been saved from my wrath. They've been saved from my wrath. This was the narration. But the Imam, he goes on to say what? بِشُرُوتِهَا. بِشُرُوتِهَا. What? أَنَا مِن شُرُوتِهَا. There are conditions. And I am one of those conditions. This I, what is this I? Is the Imam referring just to himself? No. The ulama, they say what? The Imam is referring to imamat itself as a whole. Imamat is a condition for what? To be safe from the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imamat is a condition to be safe from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And why is that so? What is so special about this imamat? And I'm not going to go into detail about this right now, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says what? Ya ayyuhar Rasul, balligh ma unzila ilayka. O my Prophet, proclaim. On the day of Ghadir, proclaim to them what has been revealed to you. This is regarding what? The wilayat of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. And then you have in the Quran in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Innama waliyukumullah wa Rasul. Not just Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your wali, but the Rasul is also your wali. And who else is your wali? Those people that give zakat in a state of ruku. They're your wali. What does wali mean here? Wali, it has many meanings. One of them, if you look at the Sunni narrations, they say, or if you look at the Sunni tafasir, they say that wali here, it means friend. Friend is one of the meanings, that's absolutely true. But is that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying? Innama, inshallah, when we get closer to Ghadir, we'll talk about this, but this wilayat of Amir al-Mu'minin. But it's important, why? Because it's because of this wilayat, Imam Riza alayhi salam says, Ana min shurutiha. It's because of this wilayah. This wilayah that Amir al-Mu'minin has is the same wilayah that the Holy Prophet has. This wilayah that the Holy Prophet has is the same wilayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. It's the same wilayah. Wilayah over here means mastership. Only and only Allah subhanahu innama. This particle of innama in Arabic grammar, it comes for hasr. It comes to put a border around whatever is coming after innama. Nothing that's inside innama can come out, and nothing that's outside of innama can come in. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Innama waliyukumullah, only and only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your wali. And this wilayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has is the same wilayah that the Rasul has. Why? Because in Arabic, if you were to repeat the word wali again, then you can say in Arabic linguistic, in Arabic fasaha and balagha, if you were to repeat the word, then the word would have a different meaning each time. The word would have different. But if you were to use waw al-ataf, this waw al-ataf gives one meaning to everything. Innama waliyukumullah wa rasul. This waw is known as waw al-ataf. Whatever wilayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has is the same wilayat that the Prophet has. Whatever wilayat the Prophet has is the same wilayat that that person who gave zakat in a state of ruku has. There's no difference. And if you want to read more about this, Shahid Mutahari, he has a very good book in Persian, Falsafat al-Wilaya, in Arabic, Falsafat al-Wilaya, and I believe it has been translated into English. It's called Master in Mastership. I believe that's what it's called, Master in Mastership. That's what it's called. But in Arabic and in Persian, Falsafat al-Wilaya. And he tells us what this wilaya is. And he himself, anyone that's heard about Shahid Mutahari, he himself and Imam Khomeini, they say that we can't go deep into this wilaya. Why? Because there would be fatwas put on our heads. There'd be fatwas put on our heads. From whom? Awam al-Nas? No. From the ulama themselves. And you see in history, if you pick up a book about Shia history, you see that the Shia ulama that did speak up about what this wilaya was, a little bit, fatwas were put on their head. Fatwas were put on their head from our own ulama. To the point where, even when I was in Najaf, some of the instructors, they used to tell me that when Imam Khomeini's son, he used to drink from a cup of water, the other ulama, they would say, don't drink from that cup. His father is kafir. His father is kafir. Ulama, where in Najaf, they used to say this. Why? Because if you read Sayyid Khomeini's books about the wilayat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, you see how far he delves into it. Not everyone can understand that. And because not everyone understood it, they put a fatwa. They put a fatwa. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. One of the most famous debates of Imam Riza alayhi salam was the debate that he had, not just with the Christian, but after he was done with the Christian, he moved over to the Jewish scholar. After he was done with the Jewish scholar, then he went over to the Zoroastrian scholar. After he was done with that scholar, then he goes over to the agnostic, the atheist philosophers. But in that debate, the first thing Imam does is teach you how to debate. First and foremost, look at the whole story. Today we have a lot of people that just go themselves and they engage in debates. No, the Imams, they didn't want anyone to engage in debates. All the debates that the Imams had, you can't show me one debate where the Imam himself, he goes and engages in it. All of the debates that the Imams had, it was always someone else that wanted to debate with the Imam. The Imam, none of the Imams, there isn't one debate of any Imam in which the Imam himself, he goes and debates with an atheist, a Christian, a Jew, a Zoroastrian. No. In all of these debates, these people came to the Imam to debate with them. First and foremost, that's what you learn from these debates. If someone has questions about your religion, then debate them. There's no reason for you to go. Two, if you do, then you yourself, you should have enough knowledge to defend your beliefs. If you don't, there's no problem in saying, hey, you know what? I'm not knowledgeable enough to answer. There is no problem in that. But what does the Imam do? When he sits down, the Christian scholar, when he was asked by Ma'mun Rashid to ask him whatever question he has in mind, the Christian scholar, what does he say? He says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, to Ma'mun, he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, how can I debate with someone whose book I don't accept, whose prophet I don't accept, and he doesn't accept mine? The Imam, he looks at that Christian scholar and he says, if I was to debate with you using your own book, would that suffice? And the man, he says, yes. He says, yes. The Imam, he debated the Christian with the Bible. The Imam, he debated the Jew with the Torah. The Imam, he debated the Zoroastrian with their book that was given to Prophet Zoroaster. And then when it came to the philosopher, the Imam, did he debate with him with any book? No. Why? Because he didn't believe in any book. He debated with him with what? With philosophical proofs, with knowledge. That's what the Imam. This is what the Imam is teaching us, or this is a lesson that we need to learn. Whoever you're going to debate with, do not debate with them using your book. Why? They don't believe your book. Debate them using their book. Debate them using their philosophy. Debate them using their knowledge. And after that debate was completely over, Ma'mun Rashid, what happens to him? He thought that Imam, he would not be able to answer at least one question that these people had. One day Imam, he answers all the questions that they had from their own books and in their own language. That's when the people realized what had happened. Or that's when Mamun Rashid, he realized that the Imam, he became more famous than he was before. And it was only and only because of this knowledge that Mamun Rashid, he had the Imam poisoned. It was because he was afraid that if this knowledge was to spread more, people will realize that Khilafat actually belongs to this person and not the person who's on this seat. And that happened for all of them, But the cunningness of Mamun was that because he himself was a Hashimi, what did he do? He claimed, or he put Imam Riza alayhi salam to be his Wali al-Amr. Because of that cunningness, people started thinking that he is what? Someone who loves Ahlul Bayt. And if you think about what hypocrites do, that's exactly how hypocrites work. They live amongst you, making you think that they're one of you. But in reality, their hearts are not with you. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive our sins. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of all of those mu'mineen, mu'minat that are here, that are not here. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive the sins of all of those marhumeen, mu'mineen, mu'minat that do not have anyone to ask for forgiveness on their behalf. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli. Inshallah, brothers, sisters, 5-10 minutes, yes.
You mentioned a hadith from Imam Ali about the signs of a Shia. Can you elaborate more on what those signs are?
Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he elaborates on the sign, the first sign that Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the first sign of a Shia is the sign of prostration. The sign of prostration that a lot of people have, or some people have, that's one of the signs of a Shia. And then he goes on to say that another sign of a Shia is that he prays the 51 rakat of salat there is a day. Meaning not just the 5 wajib acts that we do and we're done. No, the mustahab salats that are there, the nafilas that are there, the salatul layl that is there, all of those. That's one of those signs. That's 2 of those signs. The third, I have to go back and check because Amir al-Mu'minin, he names 51 signs of a Shia. 51 signs. We don't even have the very first sign of a Shia on our foreheads, let alone all of the rest. But I have to go, inshallah, by next week I'll come with all of those signs that Amir al-Mu'minin had said, because I haven't memorized all of those signs. But he says there are 51 signs. The first sign that the first 2 signs of Amir al-Mu'minin, I do know. And he says that those are the signs. But inshallah, by next week, I'll bring you all those 51 signs. Yeah.
Sometimes when you're reciting a ziyarah or a dua, some people maybe they'll add lines, or they will maybe say a line more than the dua says you're supposed to do. Is it good to do that? Because when isn't this ziyarah and dua made as best form as it is? I mean, is it good to repeat lines or those things?
There's no problem in repeating the lines. Okay. Like for example, Dua Kumayl. Everyone repeats Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi, Ya Rabbi. Okay, it's there 3 times, but we say it how many times in actuality? 9 times, right? There's no problem in reciting the lines over again. There's no problem. And then there's also no problem in, for example, in some of the du'as where you're asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for yourself. You use the pronoun that is for yourself. Okay, you use the noon and the ya at the end for myself. There's no problem in saying na. If you're asking na in Arabic, if you guys are familiar with Arabic, na signifies us. Na signifies jama'ah. Na signifies more than 3 people. There's no problem if you change it. The ulama, they say there's no problem if you're asking as a group. Do you see what I mean? Like in Dua Kumayl, even in Dua Kumayl, you have you have some lines where you say, I need to think of one where you do use that pronoun. Yes. Okay. That need that you have, in any one of those, when you see that noon y at the end, you're just basically saying it for yourself, for me. But there's no problem changing that noon ya to noon alif, na, and bringing everyone else together to it. Yes. And that's exactly. So there's no problem with that. Any other questions? No more questions? If no more questions, Bismillah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتيه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات. صل على